Chris Jackson reporting. Now, it's been recognised by the National Institute for Healthcare Excellence. GPs are referring patients onto courses, businesses are investing in it, and even some politicians are practising the art of mindfulness. But what's it all about? And should this brain training technique be taught in our schools?
Right, just want you to get yourself into your own bubble. Okay, so just leave the rest of the day behind. We're in the here and now.
Along with the usual lessons of maths, English and history, these students at the Marsh Academy in New Romney are learning a mental discipline.
And just using your torchlight of attention, focusing down into your breathing.
Mindfulness is becoming more and more popular, widely used and researched, and it's being taught increasingly in schools.
So feet on the floor.
But what does mindfulness really mean? And does it have a place in education?
The Mindfulness in Schools project, .B, which stands for Stop, Breathe, Be, is a 9-week course for secondary schools. Young people are taught to direct their attention to the here and now, learning techniques that tune their minds into their breathing, sensations in the body, thoughts and feelings. It was co-written by Richard Burnett, a teacher from Tunbridge School.
Mindfulness is really a helpful way of training your attention with practice to stay in the present moment with what is actually happening. So not lost in what has just happened and worrying about that, or feeling anxious about what might happen in the future.
A lot of people would say actually the best thing you can do for children is give them a bit of pressure and teach them to learn. They don't need to be distracted with things like this.
I think that's a good point, and I think that's a fair criticism if mindfulness is taught badly. I think if mindfulness is taught well, what young people will understand is that pressure and the right level of adrenaline is actually very healthy. We teach in our schools maths, English, sciences, histories. So all of those subjects and everything they experience is filtered through their mind. But how often do we look at the way their mind works?
It's just with your right arm, I'd just like you to raise it very slowly up into the air, up in front of you. Just imagine you've got maybe an apple tree there. And just feeling the very sensations in your fingertips at the very edge. And maybe feeling...
The immediate thing that struck me about mindfulness is just how simple and common sense many of the techniques are. But we've spoken to lots of teachers and pupils who say it has a transformative effect on all aspects of their lives.
The programme is optional for sixth formers, and for Jake it's proving helpful. He's finding being in the sixth form stressful.
I've got exams coming up and different teachers pestering you about homework and social life and social media. It's just all different variables of life that you try and take under your wing, but you just can't do it physically.
You said you've been doing it 6-7 weeks. How much has it changed you, would you say?
Oh, amazing amounts. It's beyond words, to be honest.
Andrea Hutchings, who deals with pastoral care at the Marsh Academy and now teaches mindfulness, believes that teenagers are living in a more pressurised world.
They're bombarded all the time with they've got to be this, they've got to be that. And I think using the mindfulness puts everything back into perspective, slows it down a bit and helps them cope with that pressure.
Richard Burnett says mindfulness is not just about helping young people deal with stress and anxiety.
It is also about flourishing. And I think that is a difference perhaps between mindfulness in an adult context where it's grown up in a clinical setting to deal with quite difficult depression. Yes, it can play that role with young people, but it also helps them in that when they're trying to play that musical instrument in front of somebody or kick that penalty into the goal.
When I go to football and I sometimes take a penalty, I take a quick .B. Taking penalties are crucial, so it's always best to make sure you're calm. I take the 7-11, so when you breathe in, you count up to 7. When you breathe out, you count down to 11, and you close your eyes, feel on the spot, and just breathe slowly and all that. So, and then usually it really works.
And you score?
Yeah,
well, that's brilliant.
Maybe it would be a good idea, like when we spoke about our 5 senses, to do a little bit of our finger breathing. Who would like to do that?
Mindfulness is also being introduced to younger children. Brunswick House Primary School in Maidstone is trialling the technique.
I need somebody to help me remember, what's the jar? What's the jar supposed to be?
It's our brain.
Yes, it's like our brain. So this is like our body, isn't it? And the water is like... Okay, so it's like our thoughts, yes. And I wondered if maybe you could help me to put some thoughts into the jar.
It's like a session where we can calm down, usually, because usually we all get a bit stressed.
Why do you get stressed?
Just because we do it, because now we're in year 5, we've got to get ready for the 11 plus and stuff.
Before I did mindfulness, I was quite rushy and I tried to rush everything to get it all done. But now I feel more calm and like I can do everything. I can do it without rushing.
Calm, okay, so we've got a bit of calm. Go on then, what else we have?
Tired.
Bit of tired, give it a good old shake. I think there's a lot of tired people in the room, so we can have lots of tired. Okay.
Is there enough time in the day to do these kind of things, these techniques?
I think you've got to make time, really, haven't you?
Well, they've got to be prepared for what life is like and knowing how to handle stressful situations, because everyone feels that stress or that anxiety sometimes, and it's about giving the children the tools they need to manage and handle those situations and how to move through them.
Back at the Marsh Academy, sixth former Rebecca is using the mindfulness techniques she's learned to help with her piano performances.
I do a lot of music and it's really useful then. Just before you start a concert you can just breathe, focus, and then you just look at the music and you think, oh, I know what I'm doing now. Sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming and you put the first piece up and you just haven't got a clue what you're going to play. Mindfulness puts you into a sort of zone so you know what you're doing and just makes you feel really calm.
Professor Catherine Weir specialises in children's mental health and has researched the impact of mindfulness on young people. She took a sample of 522 teenagers. Half were taught the .B programme and half were not.
We found that those who did have the programme were very clearly improved in terms of their stress levels, their anxiety levels, their depression levels and their well-being. And that this was the case even 3 months after the intervention or the teaching. And that was around about exam time. And we know that 80% of those kids said they were still using mindfulness in some way 3 months later.
Because critics of mindfulness would say, actually, forget about the remedy, look at the causes of distress, and if your children are under pressure, take the pressures off them. Would you have some sympathy with that argument?
Yes. I don't think any of us are claiming this is, you know, the universal panacea and everything else can just forget itself. I think it's part of a wide range of things that help.
But not all experts agree. Professor Frank Furedi is a sociologist from the University of Kent.
We could be doing much better at teaching kids a love of learning, teaching kids a love of reading, doing better maths, better history, getting people to become more intellectually stimulated. But instead we introduce circle time and therapy classes, and now we introduce mindfulness. The assumption is that somehow children in schools are facing a much higher level of stress. I think that's questionable. I think what we are seeing is parental anxieties, adult anxieties being recycled through children. I do think it's a distraction from getting on with the job of engaging with our kids in a creative, stimulating way.
And there has been an increase in diagnosis of mental health problems among young people. How much, though, are we giving them a whole new set of problems to worry about by telling them that they need mindfulness, that they need to pay attention to their psychological situation?
I would definitely never say to any child, and it would be a poorly trained teacher who said it, that they need mindfulness. They can decide not to use it at all. But what we hope we can do is say, look, this is the way the mind works. This is the way you can feel like you inhabit a healthier mind. And what you do with that is up to you. But is it actually really that ambitious to want to teach kids a skill that helps them to be happier, that helps them to flourish, and to help them to use this instrument that they have called the mind more effectively?
Opening your eyes and just taking a moment to ease yourself back into the room.